In the last few months, all these companies have been literally announcing the same thing. Now, first of all, we should understand that these companies are very different, and they range from a $3 trillion enterprise giant down to an open-source desktop agent. I mean, these companies did not just build similar or slightly related things. The products literally share the exact same architecture, except that they are drawn differently. And so far, everything keeps proving the agentic framework war has started, and it seems nobody is paying attention. Well, probably because the headline was announcing them as something different. For example, we keep hearing stories like Microsoft launches a new agent framework, or something like Anthropic released their Claude-managed agents, or even Cisco unveils cloud control. If you read them as separate stories, they sound unrelated, but they're not. Every single one of these reports are exactly the same thing. You've probably seen this before. A new agent framework drops and everyone is excited. That everyone is building something, some are planning something, others are launching something. A few days later, another framework drops and it looks like all these companies are racing for the same crown. Well, that's just the surface story. And it's wrong. Because once you strip away the branding and actually read the architecture documents side by side, something weird happens. You notice the diagrams are starting to look identical. Microsoft went first. Agent Framework 1 was available back in April, and it was something that merged Autogen and Semantic Kernel into one software development kit. But the real thing landed 2 weeks ago at Build 2026, the Agent Harness. In Microsoft's own word, it is a runtime layer for agents, rather than another framework. And some of the highlighted functions it serves includes compaction, to ensure the agents don't drown in their own context, file memory, so they can remember details across sessions, to-do system to prevent the agents from losing track mid-task, background agents that fan out and run in parallel, a split between planning and execution to ensure that the model is not trying to be the architect and the bricklayer at the same time. And one thing to take away is, this is a toolkit that doesn't just build agents, and is also the thing that keeps the agents alive once it's actually running. All right, here's another thing. That same week, a much smaller company, Inngest, created an open-source tool called Utah, which is an event-driven agent framework, or to put it simply, a universally triggered agent. This is a tool that will allow developers to build durable AI agents and background workers without the need to manage complex infrastructures or systems. In their own words, your agent needs a harness, not a framework. Can you see where this is going? The same word and same idea from a completely different company. Inngest version is durable event infrastructure, which means every LLM call and tool call becomes a retriable event with a full audit trail. Now, whether this is cron triggers or event routing, the tool is there to ensure the agent runs, and it also survives when something breaks. The vocabularies might have changed, but the diagrams certainly haven't. Anthropic wasn't sleeping. They also shipped managed agents around the same time. It splits apart three things that most agentic builders are still treating as a single piece, which are the session, the harness, and the sandbox. The session is basically just the conversation, while the harness is the runtime, for managing memory, the tools and the state of the tasks, and the sandbox is the actual execution environment. It is the thing that runs the code. And when you separate those into stable interfaces, you can suddenly swap any piece independently. Think of a situation your harness doesn't care which sandbox it's plugged into, and your sandbox doesn't care who called it. This is the same instinct that broke monoliths into microservices. Now it has been applied one layer ahead to the agent itself. And it's the same diagram Microsoft and Inngest already drew, and like before, it is also reorganized into a different name. Now let's talk about an operations platform. A cloud control that's not just a developer tool. This is a console whereby human operators and AI agents are expected to manage network, security, compute, and observability together. It is Cisco Cloud Control. And as you might have predicted, it comes with 50+ MCP connectors out of the box. It features OpenAI codecs built directly into the console. It serves as an agent builder for custom agents. It is a marketplace to publish them. This is again the same harness idea, just pointed at enterprise operations instead of code. The target audience for this tool are infrastructure operators rather than software developers. These are the users that manage in physical or cloud infrastructure rather than writing code. And now their agents run on the exact same foundation: memory, tool access, background execution, routing. Again, the diagram have not changed, even though the end user already changed. And then the one company nobody saw coming, Mastercard, Agent Pay for Machines, or simply AP4M. It builds on something called X402, which is an open standard that finds a new purpose for an old and unused HTTP status code, known as 402, Payment Required, which was created as a placeholder for digital cash, but sat dormant for 30 years. Then X402 revives this dormant code by turning it into a functional bridge between a server and a client, which means it is operating as an open standard for internet-native micropayments. Well, we're not diving into the mechanics, but it's simple. An agent hits an endpoint. The server says, "All right, but you pay first. This is the price." The agent then pays instantly in stablecoins through a payment facilitator, and then it retries the same request with proof of payment attached. In a lot of implementations, this is a one-line process. Well, yeah, that's the whole shape of it. One line on the server, and any request to that endpoint without paying gets stopped automatically. Now, Mastercard's piece sits on top of that layer. They call it verifiable intent, which was built in collaboration with Google. And what it does is create a tamper-proof record of exactly how much you have authorized an agent to spend before the agent spends it. It is basically the audit trail banks and regulators actually need before they'll trust any of this at scale. More than 30 partners signed on before the public launch, including Coinbase, Cloudflare, Stripe, Solana Foundation, Ripple. Besides that, Mastercard's own product chief, Jorn Lambert, put it simply. This makes it possible to sell services between agents at volumes and prices today's payment system was never built for. And again, it's not just Mastercard talking about this. Cloudflare's Agents SDK already lets agents pay for MCP tools automatically through X402. Amazon Web Services has a reference architecture doing the same thing inside Bedrock, which confirms that this is a pattern other people are already shipping against rather than a future Mastercard is promising on its own. What does this mean? Payment is now a tool category. Every harness so far has a row for memory, a row for tool routing, but none of them had a row for pay for this. Mastercard just built that row. And then the smaller players. Hermes Agent shipped a desktop app on Mac, Windows, and Linux. They've also shipped a streaming tool output, a skills system, and cron jobs. For example, the agent now handles tasks in the background, which frees up the chat interface so you can continue using the app while the agent runs a job. Apart from this, they've made it available in 2 messaging platforms, iMessage and Raft Network. Let's go back a little bit. Inngest's statement is actually the dot that connects everything. Your agent needs a harness, not a framework. This means the framework simply gives you pieces to assemble, and that is just one thing, while the harness is another thing, and it is what actually runs your agent as soon as it goes live. The harness runs everything, including the memory handling, routing, error recovery, the audit trail, all of it. And so far, every major player has independently decided to build the second thing, the harness. Now, if we put them side by side, what can we notice? You can go ahead and pause this, but it's clear that there are 6 companies and 6 completely different surfaces, and they all happen to have the same thing in common. One diagram. Is this a coincidence? Here's what that actually means. If the architecture is converging, that is, if everyone's building the same harness with the same shape, then the fight is no longer about whose harness is better. The time has come to decide which surface the agent can't afford to leave. There are 5 candidates. First in line is the IDE, which Microsoft owns through VS Code and GitHub Copilot. If your agent lives where the developer already works, it wins by being right there. Next is the browser use and the entire web automation stack under it. Any agent that has to actually click around a website runs through something like this. Next, the desktop. Now's research is betting here with Hermes Agent. By being native and always running locally, your agent is sitting next to your other tools, just one keystroke away from being called. Then the Cloud Console. Yes, the Azure Foundry Cisco Cloud Control. If your agent is hosted, it scales to 0, and it shows up on a dashboard. It wins by being someone else's problem to run. And lastly, the payment rail, Mastercard. Well, this actually complicates all of it. Stanford's Iris Lab just published something called Meta Harness, a system that uses an LLM to design better agent harnesses than humans do. searching and testing variations automatically. On a benchmark from Terminal Bench, the automated version scored 76.4%. The strongest hand-built baseline they tested against, Terminus Kira, an open-source harness by Crafton AI, scored 74.7%. A separate baseline called Mux scored 66.5%. The same model, Claude Opus 4.6, was powering all three. Notice how there's only a difference of 2 points between the best automated result and the best hand-built one. And almost 10 points is separating it from the weaker baseline. This means the harness is no longer a fixed benefit, since it's something that can now be automated and searched for. Which also means the only moat that's actually durable is the place where the agent lives, where it genuinely can't leave, which is the surface. And pay attention, when an agent can pay another agent a fraction of a cent for a piece of work, it doesn't care which IDE either one of them started in. The agent framework war everyone has been reporting on is not really happening. The frameworks have converged before the war even started. What we have left is the harness, the runtime, the tool routing, and the surface. And that is basically the same shape everywhere now. The real fight is invisible, and it's happening in 5 places at once. And the most dangerous competitor in the room is not the one with the cleanest architecture. Whoever owns the pipe that money flows through determines the rules of the ecosystem, the distribution of value, and ultimately, which agents win the consumer or enterprise market.